Good morning, students. Is it okay? Don't study. Learn. More and more. You should learn and know yourself. Well, we lit present. The third topic we offer is never-ending work with new demands and expectations. Laurie Lauren Smith, an entrepreneur based in North America, commented, "The promise of digital technology was to make our lives easier, freeing our time to do the things we wanted to do. My reality has been the opposite. There is so much more than I ever imagined that I still want to learn, research and do. Also, I spend a ridiculous amount of time learning how to set up a blog, upgrade memory in a laptop, take better pictures, to write meaningfully in 140 characters, learning how to use new apps, writing comments and feedback, and reading millions of pages of content. I was spending a disproportionate amount of time using the internet and interacting with people online more than I did with my husband, daughters and friends in real life. As this realization has slowly dawned on me in recent years, I've set timers to limit my time online when my family is around, and when anyone needs me, I immediately shut down what I was doing online to give them my full attention. I turn off my phone regularly when I'm hanging out with my friends and family in real life, which annoys people trying to get in touch, but it's my life." Annette Markham, professor of information studies and digital design at Aarhus University in Denmark, said, "I exemplify the hyperconnectivity of knowledge workers. At this stage of my career, where I network internationally with colleagues, work with dozens of students at a time, and administer multiple projects and people, I simply cannot be disconnected. I feel this emotionally and bodily every single day. My wrists hurt frequently from ongoing carpal tunnel syndrome. I suffer from chronic back pain that we colloquially call academic back. I feel increasing pressure, as well as a lure, to build my international reputation as a social and digital media expert through intensive connectivity, continuous publishing and strategic self-branding on multiple platforms. I feel like this is an all-or-nothing situation. Sometimes I just feel exhausted. Other times, I feel like one of thousands of ants trapped in a barrel filling up with water, and we're all clambering on top of others to keep from drowning." In the early 2000s, I could ask my media students to disconnect for 1 week. Around 2012, I could get them to disconnect for 48 hours. Now, maybe 1 in 20 will be able to disconnect for 24 hours. As more services enter the electronic-only sphere, people are required to be connected, to know how to access and use these services effectively. It means being online. Those of us who have been obsessively online for 20 years may be accustomed to an always-on lifestyle and have learned how to live with it. But knowing how to deal with hyperconnectivity is not the same as being unaffected by it. We, and by that, I mean myself and many of my friends and colleagues in the knowledge or tech industry, pay a heavy price. Sustained stress leads to chronic health issues. Continuous exposure to millions of people personally reacting to crisis after crisis on Twitter leaves many of us feeling sad, angry and hopeless. But we seem unable to stop checking our news feeds. The negative energy feeds on itself. After the US presidential elections in 2016, almost all of my colleagues showed classic signs of depression. Worse, we no longer find it surprising to feel sad, angry and depressed. We may not be immune to the violence this constant exposure does to our bodies, minds and souls, but we don't fight it either. I could say more, but you get the point. Douglas Rushkoff, a professor of media at City University of New York, said, "Right now, I'm interested in the mental health crises being experienced by the young men who took BJ Fogg's captology classes, implemented the strategies at Facebook and Snapchat, and are now realizing how much mental, psychological and social destruction they have caused." Paul Rosen, a professor of psychology at the University of Pennsylvania, said, "I'm not sure that email is such a great thing. One colleague doesn't use email and seems to be extremely productive. I spend half the day on it. Much of that half would have been spent on productive thinking or teaching in the old days." Thad Hall, research scientist and co-author of the forthcoming book Politics for a Connected American Public, wrote, "The biggest change to daily life is the difficulty in having a solid block of uninterrupted time in one's day to think. When communications were primarily by phone or mail, or even when Wi-Fi, smartphones were not ubiquitous and it was easy to get away with a laptop without being constantly connected, it was possible to separate yourself from the digital world. Even writing this, I am aware of my phone next to me and that my email alerts are on, and it is hard to avoid being mentally distracted. Even if I am not looking at my email or my phone, I know they are there and it is distracting." Meg Mott, a professor of politics at Marlborough College, said, "Early in my teaching career, I thought that teachers should be judged by their response time to emails. Perhaps this was my way of proving myself worthy of joining an esteemed faculty. I may not have read Plato's Republic in the original, but I could check my email on an hourly basis. At a certain point I realized that speed was working against me. My replies may have been prompt, but the tone was unmistakably crabby. This was particularly true during times when I was trying to carve out time to work on my own research. It took a rather dramatic change in my lifestyle to unhook myself from my 24-hour inbox. Suffice it to say that a yacht and an outhouse were involved. The effect on my stress level was immediate. In order to check my email, I had to be in my office during a time when I was not teaching. Not surprisingly, even though I was less available to my students, the teaching relationship greatly improved." An associate professor at a major university in the U.S. Midwest said, "The divide between work and life, and the time I spend not connected, is increasingly non-existent. My phone and computer are always by my side. I might be working from home to my office with only a 15-minute gap in between. During that gap, I often check email when at a red light. Even if I bike, I am listening to something streaming on my phone. I have communicated via email with my spouse. I have also texted my children to come to dinner in order to easily get their attention. I am hyperconnected and always responding to the first thing rather than looking around me or making decisions that take time and thought. I have back problems and posture alignment problems as a result of extended time in front of a multitude of screens." A research scientist said, "Rather than reading a book or magazine on my commute, I do things like check Facebook and look at emails that I can't easily respond to. Rather than arriving at work refreshed or arriving home with some space from work, it all comes with me." A college administrator based in North America said, "In terms of personal impact, I have developed the habit of taking more work home, which often negatively impacts family interactions and leads to home-based stress development. Further, it has reduced the time for exercise and leisure, all of which can negatively impact physical, emotional and mental health." A co-founder of an institute studying values wrote, "Work is now a 24/7 ordeal." A professor emerita of public policy at a major U.S. private university said, "I am becoming increasingly aware of the way constant access to digital forms of communication can be overwhelming. I think I'm relatively politically, socially aware, but the current, growing, bombardment of email appeals for political action or donations to address a multitude of apparently apocalyptic problems may at some point numb my senses. Thank you."